You're listening to Graphic Novel Explorers Club podcast, an audio book club.
Thanks for checking out today's episode of Graphic Novel Explorers Club. I'm one of your hosts, Johnny Flores. I am joined by Francis Preziosi.
Hello.
And Dennis Supachana.
Hey.
And today we are discussing Afterlife with Archie by Roberto Aguirre-Sacasa. We hope you have already read today's title because all three of us have read the book and we'll be discussing it, so beware, spoilers ahead. We would love for you to share your opinion and thoughts on our social media as long as, they pertain to the comic book. You can follow us on Twitter at GN Explorers Club. We're on Facebook, and you can email us at gnexplorersclub@gmail.com. Graphic Novel Explorers Club is available on iTunes, Stitcher, and wherever podcasts are available. If you want to plan ahead for episode 5, we will be discussing Mr. Punch by the legendary Neil Gaiman. Let's get into Afterlife with Archie. I'm one of the co-hosts, Johnny Flores. The rest of you, introduce yourselves.
Dennis.
I'm Francis.
You guys both seem really nervous about saying your name on record.
Well, the FBI is listening. I really don't want it.
Snowden.
My past, I'm
Snowden.
like Ken Bone. My past may come back and haunt
Have
me.
you seen that the
costume?
The Reddit stuff? No.
Oh, no. What happened was, so he didn't ask me anything, one of those things. The problem was he used his regular Reddit thing, which when people started searching through his history of what he posted towards some uncouth.
Well,
He said some stuff.
basically he said, what's her face from the Hunger Games? It was her fault that her nude photos got posted. Yeah, and it's like, dude, that's not her fucking fault. Her phone got hacked.
Yeah.
Her cloud got hacked. However you hack a cloud.
And he's probably the type that asks his wife to send him nudies all the time.
No, but he was like, I got to see her butthole.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then...
Wow. We know your position on that.
You're so Catholic.
Ew! Nobody wants to see anybody's butthole. Let's just...
No, apparently Ken Bone likes to bone on butthole.
Yeah. Unfortunate name for him.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably what made him into him.
Maybe. And then, I don't know, he said a couple other things I don't remember off the top of my head, but basically he came off a little douchey. But
What? A guy in a Mr. Rogers sweater came across as
With
douchey?
the
And,
mustache.
Just as future reference, in case someone in the future has no idea what we're talking about, we're talking about an individual who started speaking during the presidential debate.
He's basically Joe the plumber of this election.
Right. That's right.
And if people don't know what you're talking about still, you can vote for a president.
Yeah. Well, no. There was a time when we did vote for presidents before dictator Trump
Right.
abolished all elections.
And this is before our plant overlord had taken over and the cyborgs. So this may be a lot of a history lesson for all
That's
of
a
you.
lot of a lot of science fiction in there. Okay, let's get into this. Quit the jibber jabber. I'm running a tight fucking ship now.
Okay, so I'll just start.
Yeah, get into it, lady.
So I grew up with Archie because
Me
they
too.
used to sell these at the grocery
See,
store.
I did not. This is my first time ever
You had
reading.
a horrible childhood.
Yeah.
Archie was amazing.
Yeah.
I remember there was a cartoon.
Yeah.
I have vague recollection of a cartoon, like maybe in the 80s.
Yeah.
But I don't remember jack shit other than
God.
Jughead, Archie, and Betty.
Archie
Veronica,
was it, man. He had Betty and Veronica.
Yeah.
which we'll get into that.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no, that's all I was going to say is I grew up reading the Archie comic book. And when we first got this and the cover's kind of the zombie and everything, I was like, oh, God, I was like, what are they doing to my Archie? They're ruining it. But they were pretty true to the characters.
Oh,
I was
really?
surprised. So Betty and Veronica are still fighting over Archie, and he's still like the American hero. And there's lots of spoilers. So, and thankfully, so basically what happens. Well, do you want to?
No, you go ahead.
So basically, what happens is Jughead's dog.
Yeah,
Hot
Jughead's
dog.
dog is hit by a vehicle.
Cool. Yes, and
Very Pet Cemetery starting.
Yeah, it really was, and his friend helps kind of bring him back to life.
Which is Sabrina. I didn't know she was.
Oh yeah, the Teenage Witch.
I didn't know she was.
Was
from,
that her? That's what
Yeah.
I thought with the.
Yeah, I didn't realize that Sabrina the Teenage Witch was from Archie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea Melissa Joan Hart was going to make an appearance. Oh, okay. Oh my god. So anyway,
So anyway,
So the dog comes back to life as a zombie, and Sabrina's punished severely before this even happens
her
because
two
aunts, yes, who are witches also.
take her mouth away.
Well, yeah,
and then abolish her to for a year. She can't practice magic.
Yeah, or talk to anybody. Yeah. So the dog is now infected, and he goes back home, and Jughead's super excited to see the dog, and the dog bites him, and you can guess what happens from there. Basically,
he's infected.
Yes, the contagion. And they do a countdown, 12 hours can tell a contagion.
Yeah, it was kind of cool the way they bounced. It was kind of Quentin Tarantino-esque how they would flash to different points in the story so that it was kind of the timeline was a little fractured. It was just it was an interesting way of showing characters' relationships to each other and how the dog, one of the characters is feels really guilty because he was the one that hit Hot Dog. And
that's Reggie, right?
Reggie, how they told that whole story.
Yeah, just to go back a little bit, the way that they do the whole Afterlife with Archie, it's a more realistic fashion than the typical Archie. It's not cartoony. It's very grounded in some sense. And, Johnny, did you feel that without any knowledge of Archie beyond maybe some rudimentary bits, did you feel lost, or did you feel like you were introduced to the characters pretty well?
Well, I didn't realize Betty and Veronica were so hard up to get with Archie. So that was a little off-putting a little bit. I was like, what the fuck? And then plus he's a ginger, and I don't think anybody is ever that hard up for a ginger. No, I'm just kidding. But I didn't know all of the characters. I could tell there was a lot of history that I was very unaware of. I didn't really get who was if someone had became a zombie, I didn't know how that impacted the rest of the group really.
Right. How they would emotionally feel.
I didn't know who was the older characters. There was two teachers that were zombified, and I didn't know if that was a good thing to the characters or a bad thing. Were these educators Strickland from Back to the Future, where they were assholes, or were they more like Edward James Olmos and Stand By Me, where it was a hard loving relationship? I didn't really know who was what, or I didn't know if somebody was somebody's sibling or
That was some confusion there. I could see that. Well, anyway, sorry, Francis.
Oh no, that's good. Yeah, and there is a pair of siblings, and you can't tell if they're incestual.
Oh no, it's heavily implied.
It's implied,
it's heavily.
And is that normal?
No.
Okay.
Well, that's new to Archie.
Well, that's the thing, is that it takes the normal Archie tropes and twists them. So so it gets Game of Thronesy with the Cheryl Blossom. Is that?
Yes.
Who's famous? She's a redhead.
She reminded their relationship in the comic book reminded me of the two characters with the red R from the Pokemon cartoon.
Oh, Team Rocket.
Yeah.
Jesse and James.
Yeah, I didn't know that they were siblings.
I don't nerd out as much as you guys, so this is where I'm lost.
Yeah, well,
my kids are really into Pokemon now.
But I thought they were a couple for the longest time, and then you find out they're siblings. Yeah. I was like, oh.
That's what makes it twisted, and clearly the sister is kind of, I don't know, it was very
she's almost not as into it as the brother.
What's that movie that starred
Flowers in the Attic?
No, that's a good one though too. Though. No, that's actually a good one. I was thinking the movie with Buffy the Vampire Slayer girl.
Oh,
Cruel Intentions?
Yeah, she kind of had that Cruel Intentions kind of twist to her.
Yeah,
playing kind of seductive, kind of just treating this whole thing as a game.
Yeah.
Teasing her brother.
Yeah.
I think, it was she was teasing, and then he was like, oh, shit, let's go for it then. And she was like, whoa.
Right.
Not quite to that degree, but he was heavily trying to have sex with his sister.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which was really fucking disturbing.
Yeah. So what happens is there's a Halloween dance, and there's a costume. And what I love about this book is right from the beginning, Veronica and Betty are already fighting over who Archie's going to take to the dance, and they're supposedly best friends. And so they're at the Halloween dance, and there's slutty Veronica vampire, and then there's Nurse Betty, but she's kind of slutty too, like in her own way.
Well, she tried to put off, like, she wanted some kind of regular costume, but when she ended up showing up to dance, it was totally slutty.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was just
It was
slutoween.
typical skimpy
Right.
women's Halloween costume.
Yeah.
Classic Betty and Veronica.
So Jughead shows up to the dance, and everyone thinks he's got a great costume because he's a zombie, but they
Well,
don't know that yet.
So Archie goes over first to see
To see
Oh, that's
Jughead.
just
Yeah,
to see him,
yeah.
like to see what's going on, and then Jughead is basically like in a
He's
fever
sick.
state
Yeah.
in his bed and shows his arm, and it's all swollen up and fat.
Well, he hid that from Archie. Like, he said he just had, like,
I
a
thought
flu.
he pulled it off and showed up.
He showed it. He pulled it off after Archie had left.
Oh, so okay, so I didn't realize that he didn't show the.
I'm pretty sure
Mangled
isn't
fat
that how
arm.
it was?
That's how I remember it, but
And then, okay, so jump forward, goes to the dance. Everyone is impressed with the degree of
Realism.
Jughead's, zombie costume. And then he attacks one of the female characters, bites her in the neck.
The one that likes him.
Oh, now, is she always like him in the regular comic books? I don't know who.
That some of they don't explain the relationships, but I mean, you don't really have to know. It's just like a typical slasher in some sense. But yeah, she's always, I think, had something for him. But he's Mr. I like hamburgers kind of guy, so he never really is into that.
Okay. He hasn't matured like Archie.
Right.
And then and no one believes it at first, right? They think it's kind of like an act, or
Right. He bites her
In the neck.
And starts devouring her, and they think it's some sort of act, like they had pre-planned something.
Yeah.
And then afterwards he turns around, typical Resident Evil fashion. Tries to get Veronica, or no, Betty. He tries to get Betty.
no,
and then-
I think it is Veronica because Veronica said, he hated me.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
right.
because she's explained to her father what happened. It's kind of
That's-
like a past
yeah,
that's
tense,
right.
which is really well done.
Yeah.
There's all these preludes and interludes, and it was really well done, I thought, overall.
Yeah,
with
the
that.
storytelling in it, the pacing and the storytelling and the pacing was done really, really well, and the illustrations were fucking phenomenal. I really liked them. It just it was it reminded me of The Walking Dead, kind of like that messy
Right.
kind of illustration. but-
Way better than Walking Dead, if
Yeah.
you ask me. And then,
Illustration style?
Right. And then the writing bodes well for, just a side note, for the Archie TV show, which is going to be on the CW Riverdale, which is kind of like Archie meets, I think, Veronica Mars with some mysterious spooky stuff.
I
Maybe a
didn't
little
know
bit
that.
of Twin Peaks. The writer is actually the writer of Afterlife with Archie.
Oh, neat. That's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
So exciting.
Yeah, so they're at the dance, and he starts going towards Betty, and I believe Archie intervenes.
Right.
And then the girl that he was dancing with. So they,
Who, Archie?
No, sorry, Jughead.
Oh,
who
okay.
He, killed. She becomes a zombie.
Almost immediately.
Right.
Yeah, and goes after Betty, and Veronica helps her.
Right.
While Archie and all the other guys are trying to take care of Jughead.
Side note, though, Betty and Veronica were like about to fuck each other up over, one getting more favor from Archie,
Right.
and then Veronica came to Betty's rescue,
Oh, yeah.
and we're like, hey, I know we have our differences, but thanks for doing that.
So another side note too, Archie tells Reggie he went to Jughead's house and the dog comes in conversation and Reggie's like, that's impossible. Reggie tells him the story about how he was driving home at night and something happened. He hit and killed Jughead's dog.
Does he tell them? I thought in his head
Well,
he knew what
initially in
happened.
the locker room before the zombie outbreak happens,
yeah.
he is so filled with remorse and guilt for what happened. It's immediately after you see that Jughead's waiting around for.
I thought he was just playing in his head. That's what
initially it
happened.
was, and then I think later he tells him.
Oh,
If
okay.
I'm remembering correctly,
Okay.
he does
Okay.
finally admit to
And that's big for Reggie's character because he's the big jock. He's just a jerk.
Jerk.
But he.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? I didn't.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, see,
So
I thought.
maybe you didn't get. Yeah, you might not get that from
Oh.
this, but he's the jock. He's.
Does he?
the
Are him
macho
and
guy.
Archie not friends?
They're rivals.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. For Betty and Veronica.
Yeah. I think he likes Veronica
I think
more.
so, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, once again, they didn't convey a lot of that, but if you're into the comics, they definitely had.
As you should be.
Yeah. I don't know how I mean, that was like a supermarket staple for me.
See, I only read 2 comic books ever until I was well into adulthood. Someone had gotten me for my 10th birthday like a 3-pack of comics, and the only 2 that I remember, because the only 2 out of the 3 that I remember stood out because I was like, whoa, I didn't know they did this. And it was a crossover where Symbiote Spider-Man in the black suit, the Venom suit, is in a scene with it was a Transformers comic book.
Yeah.
But Spider-Man shows up to help, and then it was a G.I. Joe, and I think it was Venom Spider-Man showed up in that too.
Wow, those are pretty good crossover comics.
Yeah, and I was like, well, this is weird. And I just remember, I didn't know anything about Venom Spider-Man, and I was like, well, why is he in a black suit? I mean, that's from such a young age, and it was long before comic books are as big as they are now, between the movies and TV shows and everything going on. The Spider-Man costume was that iconic already, where I was like, why is he in a black suit?
Right.
Anyways, back to Afterlife with Archie.
They realize something's wrong. The school's getting infected. They go.
Oh yeah, the principal and the teacher come in.
That's right. Yeah.
They bust in because
they get bit first. I think those are his first victims.
Well, if you want to be technically his parents, I think.
Oh, that's right.
But I mean, that's the first 2 that you see, I think, that come busting in, and everyone's like, okay, it seems like this is really serious, and they start evacuating, right?
They hightail it to Veronica's
mansion,
dad's house, his compound.
Yeah.
Which I did. The janitor, the butler seems more Alfred-esque in that he's very skilled in sort of surveillance and keeping the
like
core.
He was British secret ops before he decided to retire as a butler. Yeah.
Which I take it he's not in the comic book, in the regular series.
No.
So they make it back there, and Veronica's dad hates Archie.
Yeah, oh yeah.
He does not like him. When is that because
he's always sneaking in to try to get Veronica, and he's not good enough. He's just a common guy.
Oh, like what do you mean sneaking in? Like he'll actually sneak into the compound and get into.
In the comic book, Archie knows a way to get out. There's a grate in the kitchen, I think it is, that he knows because that's how he gets into the house to get to Veronica. It's the only place, And so
I did not pick up on that.
Yeah, so because even Betty's like, "Oh, how do you know about this?" And you sneak in to get Veronica, and Archie's like, "Really, we're going to talk about this now?"
Right.
And like a dumb woman, she just shuts up and leaves it alone.
If you really want to examine, I mean, Archie is like this harem dream, right? I mean, there's no way you're going to have 2 best friends who are constantly going to fight over you and continue all the time and allow the other one to date and kiss the other Archie and then switch back and forth and be totally cool with it and switch back and forth. I mean, Betty and Veronica are very unrealistic in that sense.
Well, we'll get to that.
Yeah. All right.
So they go back to Veronica's house, and the comic book alludes one of them is infected, but they don't know it yet.
Right.
Which is really well done.
Yeah. How do they say that?
Because the kids are leaving the dance, and it just says like the screen, like this, like almost like a voiceover with like one is infected,
no.
like a TBD.
It was the butler is writing like a journal afterwards, like he's.
Is that what he did?
Yeah,
No,
someone.
I don't think so.
No, the butler or somebody. What I picked up was somebody's writing about this afterwards.
No,
like with the
right here. What I'm seeing here is it's almost like next time on.
Yeah,
one
not
of
there.
These kids is already infected.
Oh, okay.
Which one?
But there seems like later on in the book.
Oh, he does write his
someone
journal.
is writing about it.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's kind of, they have an interesting style. It's almost like a campy B movie.
You're wrong.
I'm exiled. I'll turn my mic off. And it's Moose and what's her face?
I forget her name now. But it's
Moose's
his girlfriend. Yeah.
Is she his girlfriend in the regular series too?
Yeah, they're a couple.
Okay. Moose made me think of, this is way off. Have you ever seen Can't Buy Me Love?
Yeah.
It was an 80s teen movie.
Yeah.
The guy who had really bad gas, and then they make him fart into the station wagon. Once the main...
Johnny always talks about farting. He just finds a way to
Pretty much.
Yeah, I try to bring it up. Where...
That's his next podcast.
He's finally cool. Yeah, just farts.
Fartcast.
And the I forget the actor, the main character. He's now finally cool. He went from lame to cool, and his little brother sneaks out to see what's going on, and then he makes the moose type dude fart into the car, and then the little brother has to like fall out because it's so potent.
Yeah, the moose character is I mean, there are different archetypes, right? I mean, this is like in Revenge of the Nerds. It's the big, dumb.
Yeah, the
jock.
one eye cross.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so he's trying to play it smart. He's like, "Hey, babe, shouldn't you get that scratch looked at?" And she keeps pushing it off, like typical.
Puts peroxide on it.
Yeah, like a typical horror movie. No, I'm fine, and
And then it seems like they're about to have sex,
which they may.
Yeah.
But then and she rationalizes with him that everything's gonna be
and
cool.
then Veronica, in the meantime, is like, everybody, let's go to the pool and relax so we can just forget about all
Right,
this.
but Archie, he's worried about his parents because the radio's not working, the internet's down. So Archie sneaks out of the house
Through
Yeah,
the
that
secret
great
passage.
Yeah, to go check on. So so there's about to be a pool party. Archie's leaving to go save his family. Moose and his girlfriend are becoming zombies, but we don't know it quite yet. Upstairs, and then
Right.
they all converge back to the pool, but Archie's still gone.
And then all of a sudden, the glass breaks and the zombies fall. It seemed like Moose was trying to fend himself, but he got bit anyway and then fell into the water.
It's
that's
possible.
right, because they
yeah.
said they're like, oh, they're always going at it or something,
Right.
like
'Cause it
a
was
sexual thing.
Right.
Yeah. And then does somebody get bit in the pool?
No,
No.
fortunately.
But they do crash into the pool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that's right, because then they close the
aluminum
metal
gate.
Yeah.
Yeah. To trap the
the
zombies in there.
Yeah, trap them in there, and then they hightail it back to the dad where he's at in the mansion.
Right. And in the meantime, I think they cut to a little bit of the town where the two cheerleaders.
Oh,
Well,
yeah,
the diner's on
lesbians.
fire.
Right, because we caught a little bit. I think Jughead's dad had popped in for a visit, for a bite to eat, and of course he was a zombie already.
I thought it's I see. I don't know jack shit about Archie.
Right.
Did his dad own that diner?
No, that's Pops. That's like what's his name from?
It's just like
Like
the Peach Pit
like,
from
yeah.
90210.
Yeah, or when I read Archie going back, I always thought of it as kind of like a Happy Days.
Yeah.
So it's like what's his name?
Owls.
Owls.
Oh,
So
okay.
Pops is like owls.
Okay, or the Peach Pit.
Yeah,
let's,
yeah.
Let's keep it at least within the.
It's not like the peach.
no, not at all.
You were wrong.
Yeah, and when they're there, there's the two characters, Hispanic and I don't remember the other one.
Yeah, but
Two
they're
women,
two cheerleaders.
and
They're two lesbian
Yeah,
cheerleaders.
they're
but they're on
and
the
one of
down
them
low.
wants to come out.
Right, and the other doesn't. And they
Yeah.
have boyfriends.
Oh, do they?
At least one of them.
Yeah, one of them has a boyfriend because he comes up later. Remember?
Yeah, he comes
I
actually
remember.
makes it to the mansion.
Yeah.
They kind of cut that part where they've managed to
Yeah.
rescue a few people. Like they suddenly just pop up in the mansion. I can find that
Okay.
confusing.
But it seems like, and then there was an zombie outbreak in there.
Right.
They fight the two women fight their
Off
way out.
screen, so to speak.
Yeah, and then Archie shows up and the place is on fire,
Right.
and they still Pop's motorcycle and take off.
Right.
Right.
And it's not, you don't know if one of them was infected or not.
Yeah, well, who knows?
Yeah.
It's
then-
it's not covered in this volume.
So I took that scene, not knowing anything about Archie really, that was sort of the turn where, to Archie it's real, more than his. So he winds up going to his parents, and they're both dead.
Oh wait, that hasn't
No.
happened yet.
Oh no!
No.
Only one, and,
Yeah.
and also only one parent.
Oh, that's right. That's
and
right.
there's an important story there that we have
Sorry.
to get into.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I took that as like because it filled up 2 pages.
Right.
The illustration of Pops being burned
Right.
down. I thought that was kind of like, oh, this is the huge turn for him where it's like, oh, this isn't a game or
Right.
this is
It's worse than like a couple people being bit. I mean, it's a
yeah,
whole town.
worse than him even losing his friend.
Right.
Because Jughead's his best friend, right?
Right.
Yeah, worse than that even is like, oh shit, the place where we all hung out, where our childhood was spent, is gone.
Right.
Yeah, so then he makes it to his parents' house.
So when he gets to his parents' house, it goes back to this backstory. This is where I cried.
Oh wow.
I cried.
It's really good.
yeah.
I mean, it.
I was shocked how well written it was and illustrated. It goes to this backstory about his mom and dad take Archie to go get a dog.
Oh,
And his dad
God,
is
yeah.
explaining to him how you take care for your dog. And they look at all these dogs, and Archie goes, that's the one.
Outside of that, even though his dad's like, this is your responsibility.
Yeah.
You walk him, you water him. This is your dog, not your mom's dog, and it's not your dad's dog.
Yeah, and they say, like, you take care of him, and he'll take care of you.
Yeah,
like,
and he reiterated it a couple different
Right.
times.
So it shows Archie as a little boy, like, feeding him, caring for him, walking him. And so Archie goes up to his house, and the zombie dog.
Hot dog. Zombie hot dog.
So, yeah.
Is growling and approaching. And then, I got a little choked up even reading
It was
them.
really this well-paced scene.
So his dog breaks through the window, and it's like primitive thought.
Of what the dog is thinking.
What does he say, Archie?
Like, I love you forever.
Run.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he says it's something weird, like Archie boy or something like
Is it
or
Master or
Archie. Yeah, something like that.
Master Archie or something like that.
Yeah, and he's trying to tell, he's trying to tell Archie to through his growling at the zombie dog.
And then he's Vegas is his name.
Yeah, Vegas, that's right.
And he has expressions in his
He
face.
says, live, Archie Master. Thank you. Love you forever. But now run, 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 live. That's playing in the dog's mind as he's attacking the dog, the hot dog, and he knows he's going to die.
But that one frame where his eyes are so big and he's like trying to look back at Archie like, get the hell out of here. I love you. Like,
and then stupid me. I was like, because it's so true when you have an animal, or maybe if you have a kid, I guess it's kind of the same. I don't know, but you do when you are little. It really is the big first responsibility you have, and you do have your pet for a long time if you do it right and you do treat the animal right, and your animal does kind of take care of you too.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
well, even in Life, or what's that comic strip called?
So everything's happening, but like honestly, okay, the town's burning down, everyone's gone. You're gonna lose your best friend, like your real, like your dog, like you're losing your pet.
And it's such like a pure sacrifice. Yeah. It's not. The dog knows he's gonna die. The dog knows he's gonna die, but he still sacrificed himself.
I'd like to think my cat would do that.
Fuck no. Your cat would scratch your fucking face off
while you're getting attacked.
Yeah, to run away. Be like, oh, I know if I scratch her face off, the zombie's going to go for her, so I better scratch her fucking face off.
Well, and then for me, that's where it seemed really real for Archie. It's like, you could tell he wanted to help him, right? In a typical fashion, he would probably help him if it was like something normal, but he can't. He knows if he gets him messed up with that whole thing.
Well, somehow he seemed to know what the dog was trying to convey.
Right.
Yeah. Like, get the fuck out of here.
Right.
Like, I love you, but you need to leave because I'm gonna die.
Right.
I
could see that in the dog's face without looking at the word. You could tell.
Yeah, and that's when I was like, "Damn, this book is good."
Well, I was gonna say, better off worse or better for better or worse. That comic strip. Mm-hmm. The dog in that died, saving the youngest kid, and I didn't read it when it happened, but it's on the internet and you can go find it. Wow. The dog falls into an icy river or jumps into an icy river to save the youngest daughter, who falls into the river, and then in doing so dies from the exposure. And they show and it's like when I read it, I was like on the verge of tears because they did it over 2 or 3 panels.
And this is usually a light comedy strip, right?
Yeah. And I think they had another dog pass away naturally later, but this dog was it was a fan favorite, and he was a big shaggy like shepherd dog or something like that, big shaggy fur. And then to pay homage to the dog later after it passed away, or when the characters were thinking about it, she would hide the dog, images of the dogs of the dog in clouds or in tree branches or stuff like that. So like when the when the characters were thinking about the dog,
you could see that.
You would see it in the illustrations in the background.
Cool.
So, I don't know. It's amazing when you can convey that kind of innocence of dogs or creatures,
right?
And something like that. But
I'm sure it's a universal feeling for the most part. I think we've all had pets, but for them to convey that whole backstory and to care about Vegas without maybe having any knowledge of him beforehand, that's amazing. That's like 2 or 3 solid pages of just content that just really hits you emotionally
Yeah,
so
oh.
quickly with a character that's basically introduced
And immediately dies.
dies.
Yeah. No, it speaks powerfully to like the writing ability and the illustrating ability of the people that worked on this book. I was amazed. Yeah, I was very choked up reading it. I was like, no, that's fucking terrible, because I know my dogs would not do that.
I'm sure one of them would fart in the general direction
Yeah.
of a zombie.
No, Ellie would run up and act
Play
crazy
with
on the
me.
zombie, like, play with me, zombie, and it would instantly die. And then Franny, I don't know what I genuinely
She would
do
fight
not
for
know.
you.
She might take a
Franny would.
nap.
No, the only way she would is if the zombie dog showed up and tried to eat human food, and then Franny would fight her to the death. Okay, so
he
he
gets
makes his way into the house.
and his dad is already a zombie, but he's able to save his mom.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he has to beat his zombified dad with a bat.
Once
Oh,
again,
right.
another powerful scene
Yeah.
where it what is it?
Interlude
inner
or
monologue?
prelude?
Well, no, where they
Intermission?
they show flashbacks of his remembering his dad to him actually physically pummeling
Oh yeah.
his
Dad
dad's
seemed
head.
a little stern in the flashbacks.
Kinda, but
Dads in general seem kind of
yeah,
stern.
but I mean, there was some definite connections. I mean, you
Yeah.
could see that, but
Oh, because they bought the car. That's what it was.
Yeah.
They brought this car for Archie to fix up, and they were going to do this project together.
Yeah.
Slave worker. That's what dads are. But yeah, there was, and he.
so really, Archie just got his revenge finally on his dad. This was showing him enjoying.
His dad wasn't even fully zombied yet.
This comic book is really Archie finally becomes a man. He
Yeah.
loses all childhood conveniences.
Although he
and
never
ties.
picks the two girls.
Why would you want it?
But
I'd string that
So
along as long as I could.
so he gets his mom, and then they go back
Yeah, no, they hightail it out of there.
to the mansion.
through the underground, but there's zombies down there.
Well, they don't show that. So somehow they make it back. It's, I assume, implied that they make it through via the underground. Also, other people somehow, man, I don't know if they picked up people, because that's
Yeah, that was kind of weird.
because
how that was-
the twins somehow end up there now.
Oh, that's right.
yeah.
A few other people. The guy was
And they're still shit talking the mansion.
right, exactly. And the boyfriend for one of the lesbians is there. The lesbians are now there.
That's right. That's right.
So somehow they all maybe got the call, or he ran into them that, hey, head to the mansion. Probably they went underground just so they didn't attract attention.
But then the zombies show up, and it seems like Jughead is somewhat
The ringleader.
sentient.
Yeah.
Because he like points to the after they've tore through the town.
He really hates Veronica.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's like-
and but it seems like he points to the mansion to say,
Right. So these are
that's
definitely not
food.
Walking Dead zombies. These are more. I mean, they
They're
technically
more like 28 days later,
Right.
28
Yeah.
days later zombies up without the fast.
And plus, I mean, this was a result of Sabrina the Teenage Witch's enchantment. So who knows what kind of zombies they are? They could be like voodoo type zombies where they have a little more brain power. And so he's definitely the ringleader and telling people where to go. And yeah, they start surrounding the mansion.
And Veronica's dad is really hesitant to leave because, like, look, we're in a mansion. We have everything we need. We'll wait for help. And Archie's like, there is no help.
Yeah.
We don't know that any help's coming. Our best chance is to run. We can't stay here. They will infiltrate at some point.
And other emotional flashback, the dad has a big tie to the town. He helped basically found it, right?
Oh, right.
And then
yeah.
his wife, he brought his wife here, and there's a whole thing about her. And they managed to really pack in a lot of emotion for back characters very well.
Well, and like very quickly emotionally invest you in
Right.
the decision making,
Right.
like the emotional decision making that some of the characters do. Not logical thinking,
Right.
emotional thinking.
Oh, that's right, because they flash back to when Veronica's mom's on the train, and these women tell her, you're going to have a girl. And she's like, no, it's a boy. They're like, no, your husband wants a boy, but you're having a girl.
Sabrina's aunts, actually.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, is that
yeah.
who that was?
Yeah.
Right, because then they implied
You're
that
right.
they were heading to town as well, and their sister was having a girl, and so it was implied to be Sabrina.
Oh, I didn't pick up
Yeah.
on that. I'm not smart.
Yeah, but you're right. They did flash back on that too,
Mm-hmm.
and so it leaves like they. So what happens is they decide to listen to Archie of all people, this kid. Oh, and that's where the butler story comes in. The butler,
Right. Other flashback.
yeah, he he is kind of journaling. They've always been, his whole family has been butlers.
Third generation.
To the lodges. Yes. And he's like, even though we're of this house, we're not this house.
Yeah. Veronica, that's her last name, is Lodges.
Now, I don't know. Is that like a common thing? Because that happens in Batman, too, where in some of the later retellings, what's his name? I can't think of Batman's
Alfred?
butler. Alfred is not the only one of his family to have
I
been.
didn't know that.
Yeah, his dad was actually the butler. Now, this could have been the more modern retelling, but I wonder if this is like a thing where families have families of servants.
The only Alfred, or the only butler stories I know are Alfred and then Downton Abbey.
Well, and that's, that is one thing we take for granted. This is totally sidetracked, but that is one thing we take for granted in America about like new beginnings. You can be whatever you want. In European countries, like if your dad's a blacksmith, you're most likely going to be a blacksmith. If your mom's a nurse, you're going to go into nursing. Like it's not, you don't really veer off too far, of course, from what your family does. Now, I don't know if like you're necessarily servitude or tied to another family like that, but.
Well, I could see it as that's your family trade, right? You grow up in this mansion watching your dad be a servant, in which it flashes back to the butler learning from his dad how.
And he was already bald at 10.
Like Lex Luthor.
Yeah, so I don't think it's uncommon to follow in your footsteps, but in the comic book world, no, you stick with the family. And he did. He made a promise to Veronica's mom before she died. I will watch after Veronica.
That was a very deep.
It seemed like she was like his dad. Veronica's dad's not gonna. Like she knew his dad.
Flashback,
She knew that her husband was philandering, and knew he wouldn't be interested in raising her. So she was like, "Please, It seemed like she was, imploring him to be the parent,
right?
That she
exactly
she was not going to have,
and look after her daughter and everything. Yeah.
So he does kind of watch after Veronica, and so they do decide, let's listen to Archie and let's leave. And then, to my great dismay, that's the end of book 1.
Oh, so just to wrap up the story,
funeral,
they launch fireworks because the family.
To draw attention.
Right, and then they manage to escape, in the end of book 1. Now, the interesting thing about the end is that, so this book was released originally, the first issue was released in like 2013, and it sold like hotcakes. They had to reprint it a bunch of times. And then slowly after each issue, the issues were coming out on a regular basis. I think there's 6 issues here. But between the last 3 books, there started being this huge gap in terms of like when it was being released.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, it was because this is 2013, and then they said, okay, we're going to pick up with issue. I think it ends with issue 7.
And they still had the same artists and writers working on it. Okay.
Right. And then part of the reason was that the writer was working on the pilot for Riverdale, and the artist was doing some other stuff. And people actually thought for the longest time this was canceled. It wasn't until June of this year. So this is 2013 this was released. It wasn't until June of 2016 they finally released the next issue in this. So they've released, I think, 3 issues so far. And there's also another, this is part of the Archie horror line. So there was also an unrelated but similar comic, Sabrina. I forgot the name of it, but it's a darker telling of Sabrina. Like, imagine the Sabrina that's in this book, but not tied into this universe, but that kind of dark. I think she ends up having to marry Cthulhu and this other stuff.
Really?
Yeah, this cult stuff. But yeah, they haven't released. They didn't release a new issue until this year, so it's taken them 3 years to finally.
Well, that's how I think is Jeff Lemire, his comic book series Sweet Tooth. There was which we'll do one of our seasons. We'll do Sweet Tooth because they had trouble with the publisher. The first couple issues were published by one publisher. It wasn't selling enough for that publisher, so they gave him permission to take it to another one, and then it got released, and then it was steady. It was steady after that until the series was wrapped up.
Yeah, so back to the beginning. Yeah, I grew up reading Archie, and I was like, what the hell are they going to do to this? Like, I just thought it was going to be stupid. I really thought, like, Archie's going to become a zombie or something, like, lame. This is so well done, and it made me, like, love Archie more. And I loved it, too, because they're so true to the characters. Betty and Veronica, on the verge of near death, they're arguing over who Archie likes more. Because at one point, Archie confides in Betty, like, my mom, I had to kill my dad. And Veronica overhears this, and she's very upset. And then she's like, Archie went to Betty, not to me. And there's still, like, I wish in this day and age both women realize he's not worth it and find somebody who loves and deserves him.
So that was, like, my big beef with the book was...
why they would be so...
And Veronica's so self-absorbed, and that's true to her character.
Well, it just... I didn't get...
I am shouting, sorry.
I just didn't understand. I was like, come on. I don't know.
That's one of the things that they stayed true to the book, which I think you have to. I mean, they've twisted around some things.
It's a male fantasy comic book, right?
Well, I wouldn't say that. It's very Happy Days, and that's the only... I think that's the joke thing. I don't know. I wouldn't call it male fantasy per se, but...
No, that's... Yeah, it's like a 1950s kind of like... There's a self-absorbed, girl, and then there's the do-all-good girl, and then there's the high school heartthrob, and then there's the jughead, the class clown, and then there's the jock. It's very one-dimensional characters.
Right. Although interesting, Archie isn't the heartthrob or the jock. I mean, he's actually kind of an unusual character to be fixated.
All-American boy.
Yeah, he is the all-American boy. That's what he is.
But he's helpful, right? And
he's a very nice... He's a very nice, honest kid.
Yeah. That's kind of what I picked up from it. It was like he never took advantage of the two.
Right.
Even though they were both... throwing themselves at him. He never seemed to, fully take advantage.
Right. No, for sure.
Of them, or like play one against the other.
Right. Right.
He genuinely seemed torn between the two. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and the company behind
interest.
Right. Exactly.
Torn, but
yeah. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
The company behind Archie, I forgot their name exactly. They're known, especially recently, for doing a lot of kind of cutting edge stuff. This part, not this one, but I mean they've introduced a gay character on here who's actually in this book. It's actually
not the two female.
No, one of the guys. His dad's like a soldier.
Is it DeFwan?
I forget his name
from 30 Rock.
No, but I mean they've done a lot of forward stuff in terms of using the normally innocent Archie comic for having kind of more progressive storylines,
social issues being in there,
and they've also had some pretty wacky stuff. They had way back in the 90s, Archie meets the Punisher.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I mean, I know they kind of talked about that a little bit in like the foreword.
Oh, right.
But I remember that distinct because I had a friend at the time. I was 20 in 1995, and I think it came out somewhere around there.
Right.
And he wore a baseball cap that said Jughead on it, and he was a big Archie fan. And I remember him saying like, "Holy shit, Punisher's in
right.
Archie's in Punisher. Punisher's in Archie."
And I think they've met Kiss.
Yeah.
They've met a few different interesting characters. So yeah, it's not unusual for them to do a zombie comic, but to my surprise, those other ones were done in the style of Archie. They're very cartoony. This was realistic, and frankly,
it was more gritty.
Right. And I thought it was like a cash-in, right? When I first heard about this, it's like,
That's
okay,
what I thought.
everyone wants the zombie thing in. I mean, Marvel had done it, and everyone had done it.
And it was the sort of the beginning of the curve of zombie.
So when I got this book too, because I got it a few days ago, and I was like planning on reading it, so I was flipping through it to see how big it was, and I was mad. So like half of this book is just covers. So I'm already like, this is like a throwaway. Like maybe I'm just cashing it, but it really wasn't.
Right.
That's what they do when you buy anthologies for comic books. They throw in all the
alt variations.
Yeah, the very variant covers. They throw in sketches and like character designs, before they've settled on one. They throw in all that extra shit.
And actually, that's how, because of a cover, they did a variant cover where it was like some tribute to Night of the Living Dead. That's how someone said, hey, that's great. Why don't we actually make a comic about that?
Oh, really? That was the start of it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, but this was surprisingly, in my opinion, just so well written.
Yeah.
And I love
really
the
was.
art. Like, so Archie's normally that comic-y book
Right.
drawing, very cartoony.
Yeah,
and
very
this-
round and bubbly and
Right.
bright.
Yeah, like when I see Veronica as the vampire at the dance, I was like, oh, this just got serious, right? Like, this is like adult
Right.
Archie, like real life. And the coloring.
Well, and the other part of it was her suit was so tight there was like some pubes hanging out all of a sudden.
No, there wasn't. Veronica would never let that happen.
Veronica would definitely go Brazilian.
Oh,
if
yeah,
anything.
she
But-
pays for that.
But yeah, I mean, the artwork was amazing. The writing, obviously, as we discussed many times, was tight. I can't say enough good things about it.
Yeah, it was really good. I didn't know when you had suggested this. I was like, Dennis.
I know a lot of people say either they're not fans of Archie, or they are fans and think, well, how is it just going to be like some campy,
Yeah.
really?
I was just
And to take a horror trope, I mean, this is a typical horror movie, right? Take a bunch of teenagers, some of them die, and it gets worse. And to take that and to make something that's emotional. I mean, honestly, The Walking Dead, I don't feel that kind of emotion for a lot of the characters. You kind of feel for them after their situation over time. But they're
Well-
able to, like, really...
the only thing comparable to the emotion, the raw emotion of where I was like, fuck, in The Walking Dead and the whole entire fucking series. And it's not as even as it didn't affect me as emotionally as when the dog sacrifices itself. Is when Rick's wife, I cannot remember,
Gets shot?
Lori gets shot with a shotgun, and the baby.
Well, she's holding the baby.
Yeah, and they both
Yeah.
get blasted and die.
Right.
And I think that was.
The baby dies in the comic book?
Oh,
spoiler
yeah.
alert.
Spoiler alert, yeah.
Yeah. The baby does not make it.
Which is... I was surprised the baby made it in the TV show.
I know. I feel like they would have been better off making a more believable story
Right.
with the baby having died. I think it would have been an easier. I know why they did it, because they can't show a baby dying on
Right.
television. Even
Well, I don't
on-
know. Can they? I mean, they showed two kids get shot in the back of the head or whatever.
But they didn't die. Well, that's true. But it's not the same as a
Yeah,
baby.
I
I don't
guess.
know. I don't know.
It could have been off screen, but I just think having raised two babies, being in the zombie apocalypse with that burden, I don't think you would.
Yeah, I was telling Sasha the other day when we were season 6, I think it was finally on Netflix, and I was like, if we had a baby and there was a zombie apocalypse, just to save that baby from being fucking devoured by a zombie, I would probably kill the baby.
Well, did
So,
you spoiler? Did you see? There's an episode in the latest season, right?
Season 7?
Is it on Netflix?
No, season 6
Season 6 is on Netflix. It hasn't come out. Season 7, I think, is about to start.
Yeah.
Season 7 is the new one.
Yeah, where you fully see Negan.
Okay, so season 6, the one you've watched on Netflix. Have you seen the whole thing?
Yeah.
No, I haven't.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah.
we'll
Never
talk
mind.
about it after.
Yeah.
Never
But
mind.
Pearl S. Buck did write in The Good Earth.
The Good Earth, yeah.
Yes, because Olan kills her baby right away. And
During the famine, right?
Right, and
It's
Olan
been a while since I
says,
read that.
a baby born in starvation dies in starvation.
Right.
Yeah.
And so going back to the zombie apocalypse, yeah, you just assume the baby's gonna die, but I could see why they left the baby alive. Because what else are you fighting for? What are you living
Well,
for?
he's got a son already.
Yeah.
Yeah, but also what I did like about back to the Afterlife with Archie, there's still some cartoony like little treatments done, like the whole someone's a zombie, but they don't know it yet, and it has like the 5 heads.
Right. It's kind of like a
It's still-
Batman 1966
It's
kind
still
of
just
vibe
like
to it.
like a tribute.
It reminded me of the old Marvel square in the corner
Right.
when they would
Yeah.
show like
Right.
if there was an X-Men comic book, they showed 6 of the X-Men heads.
Right.
Like that's a kind of
No, totally. And
Totally.
it was very much like like a cheesy, almost like voice, voice in the distance, kind of
Yeah.
narrating everything.
Like right before the commercial break.
Right, right,
Like I
exactly.
can imagine Don Pardo from SNL reading.
Right.
One of
totally.
these boys is infected, or one of these
Right.
kids is infected.
So what did you think, Johnny? 'Cause
I
you
really
know
liked
nothing
it.
about Archie.
Yeah, again, I didn't know the relevance of some characters as far as what their relationships were with Archie, and I still don't know. But so I did, again, going back, like I didn't know what their impact of their death was on other characters. But overall, it was very well written. I love the illustrations. I think out of just about anything we've done on this season, this might be my favorite illustrated book so far.
Nice.
Is this? It's just it was just done so well. There's that one where Jughead's trying to bite Archie. I think it's on the back cover. Like that illustration was done.
Always reaching out.
Yeah, it was just done so well. Or when like the dogs are squaring off, and it was just so well drawn and written. So I highly recommend it.
How are you, Francis?
I agree. I thought it was really well drawn, and I thought there were so many side stories, but they were woven in so nicely, and it kept me entertained the whole time.
Yeah.
I really was like, what do you mean this is the end?
Yeah.
I need to know what happened.
When it ended, I was like, God damn it, Dennis. Like, what the hell? Why don't we have season 2 of this? And then
I Facebooked you guys. I was like, I only have book 1. You're like, that's all there is.
Yeah.
No, a lot of people thought it was canceled. And I guess I'll say I love the book, obviously. That's why I recommended it. I love zombie stuff. I even was into like the Marvel zombie thing, even though that was crap in terms of illustrations.
Didn't Kirkman write that?
He wrote some of it, I think. Yeah, it was basically like, let's see how we can have every other super character eat other super characters and people. But I mean, I'll be honest, I hate the Walking Dead illustrations. I think they're shit. Except for like the first few issues that were illustrated by what's his name.
I thought I was on that boat, and then having read a ton of those books, like I read pretty much up until they got to Haven.
Oh, okay.
I read the first volume where it was the original illustrator, and they're beautiful drawings. And it wasn't until I got several issues in where I was like, oh, that was too clean for this world.
That's true.
I much more prefer like the gritty, almost poorly drawn books. And in fact, I even think it parallels well because when Rick first woke up, he thought it was still this good world. Nobody realized how bad it was yet. And it wasn't until, and that's not why the illustrator changed. But
that's a nice,
like it almost makes a better analogy for the world because now it really is shit.
Right.
It'd almost be great if when the series, if it ever comes to an end,
it comes back
they
to
brought that original illustrator back where it's like, whatever the world is, this is the world and we live in it and we can accept it.
Right, exactly. Well, that's a pretty cool idea. But yeah, I mean, colors, everything. I loved everything about it. So, and then, and of course the writing was amazing for it to jump around, telling different stories. I mean, you would think going back and forth with flashbacks. I mean, it's like, God.
They did a great job of just keeping you.
The pace was just amazing.
Like it making sense when when it fractured. Sometimes people throw that fractured storytelling in to do it, and it just doesn't. It really fractures the story. But this didn't do it. You're like, oh, okay, that's why. I just.
Sorry, Johnny's a little
injured. Yeah, I hurt my shoulder and I moved my arm the wrong
way. He might be
way.
zombified, so we might have to kill him.
So I have an important question for both of you to wrap up.
Yes.
Wrap it up.
Veronica or Betty, Johnny? That's the crux of Archie's life. This is really, and honestly, fans, they have a side.
Oh, really?
Yes.
See, I don't know. I don't know the characters well enough to.
Okay, slutty vixen Veronica or sweet, good-natured Betty?
Why can't you have both?
Okay. Dennis?
Why can't you have both in one person?
I'm always Team Veronica.
Oh, okay.
Plus the dark hair. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess, I do like dark hair more than.
See, I've always been
Although I have
Betty.
A girlfriend with blonde hair, I do like brunettes, or dark hair girls. But why can't you have a lady on the street and a freak in the sheets?
Okay, Archie.
Does he ever wind up picking one or
no? Throughout the whole series,
that's the whole thing.
The 200 years of the comic book.
No, that's
never,
like The Simpsons. Maggie never talks.
Yeah.
Archie never chooses.
Yep. Yeah, he doesn't have to.
Was Archie based off of Happy Days or was
no? Okay, so this is an interesting thing that I didn't know because I haven't read that much deeply into Archie. I was a fan of Archie, but I picked it up probably around the same time you did. So originally, at least when I read it, it was a very Happy Days kind of.
Was it
era.
Published around the same time, late 60s, early 70s?
I think it actually predates that.
Oh, really?
If I remember, I think it's like 30s and 40s.
What? That old?
Yeah, that's how old it is. So he's actually, Archie has evolved. I mean, a lot of people, because of the cartoon, I think, and when it was most popular, have fixated in their mind this Happy Days kind of era of Archie. That's how I remember it. But it actually predates even the 50s.
Wow. So it was like Jim Crow laws.
Yeah, that's when it was really racist. That's when Archie was part of the Ku Klux Klan. Archie meets the
No,
Klan.
he wasn't in the Klan, but he was a big supporter of segregation and
That was
Jim
Jughead.
Crow. Yeah, together.
Yeah.
those
So
two.
it's been around. So it's evolved over time. So that's what a lot of people say. It kind of molds with the time. You know,
Okay.
we're into zombies now, so they
Yeah.
have zombies.
See, I was so used to. My thought was like, oh, it's always set in the 50s and never leaves that, or like the
Right.
early 60s, and then they're using cell phones and stuff. I was like, oh, I didn't know they allow. It's
That
almost
jumped at me too.
almost
I was
like
oh.
Amish, like when you see an Amish person in like using a telephone, you're like, oh, I didn't know they could do that. Or
Right.
on inline skates, you're like, oh, I didn't know you guys could use skates. Like, oh, I didn't know the Archie gang could use cell phones.
Right, exactly. And it, to its credit, I mean, for the most part, it's kind of ambiguous of the timeline, except for some of those.
It's almost like a who's the director of Rushmore? And,
Oh yeah. No,
Wes Anderson. It's almost
Yeah.
like a Wes Anderson movie.
exactly.
Or Batman, the Tim Burton Batman movie. You're like, well, it seems
Right.
like futuristic, but it
Neo
looks
retro
Yeah.
kind of thing. Yeah, exactly.
completely different. Where Francis, where can people follow you on the old social media?
They can follow me on Instagram at Words and Waffles because I like words and I eat waffles.
And
I didn't get to you.
oh, sorry.
No, I'm just kidding. Go for it.
I forgot that. Is it at GNExplorersClub.com
On the twits.
and on Twitter at GNExplorersClub.
All right. And then if you guys want to follow my other podcast, SeriousTalkSeriously.com or STSPodcast.com, and then on Twitter, Serious Talk Twit. All right.
Sounds
Thanks.
serious.
It's super serious. It's so serial.
It's really way too serious,
Yeah,
actually.
It's so fucking serious.
Thanks to all of our listeners.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks
thank you.
for listening. If you have recommendations, please email us or let us know or tweet us. Let us know what you think of the comic books that we're reading. We'd love to hear your opinions. We'll be back.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Graphic Novel Explorers Club. If you're planning ahead, just as a reminder, next episode will be Mr. Punch by Neil Gaiman.